Basically, he was outlining how big pharma and the US government rule the world, literally, in terms of manufacturing biological crisis. So, big pharma and US government, they had a very good reason. He was a thorn on their side all the time. He basically uncovered the whole system of biolabs, the American biolabs in Ukraine.
What makes this assassination particularly significant is Kirillov's critical role in investigating allegations of biological weapons laboratories in Ukraine. For months, Russia has accused the United States and Ukraine of collaborating on covert biological programs, raising global concern and fueling heated geopolitical tensions. General Kirillov had been a vocal figure in presenting these claims, alleging that such labs posed a direct threat to Russia's national security. Could this have made him a target?
It's a connection between big pharma, NATO stan, and NATO stan mostly US, but also NATO in Europe and Kiev. No question. Once again, using patsies. The investigation was very swift. The Russians are very good when something like this happens because usually they put the pieces back together in a matter of less than 24 hours. And in this case, it was on the same day, literally. They identified the actual perpetrators, the guys who rented the scooter, the guys who rented the van, the whole thing. Of course, it was a typical Kiev dirty ops. Somebody pressing the button outside of the perimeter, of course, and then exploded the scooter. One of these guys, he has a public face already. The other one is kept in the background. He's an Uzbek, born in 1995, very low IQ. Probably he didn't know that he was being manipulated. And this is how they do it. It's like the guys they recruited for the Crocus attack. Basically, a bunch of Tajiks recruited online. That's exactly how they recruited these two, once again, from Central Asia, online. They had no clue what they were doing. The most important thing, Nima, and all our audience, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, he's immensely important, not only in the Russian military sphere as an investigator, but from the point of view of the whole global South. There is an interview that he gave to Russia last year, a little over a year ago. Let me just quote a little bit from. Let me find it first of all. I put it on my Twitter X and on my Telegram. A little bit of this interview. Basically, he was outlining how big pharma and the US government rule the world, literally, in terms of manufacturing biological crisis. So, big pharma and US government, they had a very good reason. He was a thorn on their side all the time. He basically uncovered the whole system of biolabs, the American biolabs in Ukraine. They sent all this documentation, facts, reams of paper, factual, names, dates, locations, etc., to the UN over and over again. And guess what happened? Completely blocked at UN, veto by the US, because this implicated the US in detail with names, numbers, facts, and locations over and over again. Let's say the archipelago of biological war, where the United States government is directly implicated, weaponizing it, financing it, etc., and especially all across Ukraine, which they discovered in detail. So Kirillov was, I would say, probably military public enemy number one for Big Pharma as a whole. It's an Atlanticist connection. and the US government, of course, by the Democrats specifically. And Kirillov, he was one of the first who came up with definitive proof that COVID 19 was a US government operation. So this gives all of you the impact of Kirillov. Of course, most of it, everything is in Russian. It was submitted in Russian, but you find translation of his work everywhere, including in Russian Telegram channels everywhere. So it's very easy to find. You won't find the evidence in mainstream media in the West. Forget it. And in the West, very few people knew who Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov was. It doesn't matter. Killing him is not going to solve the problem from the point of view of Big Pharma and the US government, because there are other Russian officials working under Kirillov that are as competent as he is. And the documentation is already there, and the documentation is at the UN. He was entered at the UN by Nebenzia, the permanent Russian representative. So sooner or later, maybe much later, because the US government will try to block it everywhere, this will surface all over the global south. So his work will, of course, outlive him. But the modus operandi of the assassination is typical of those goons in Kiev. I personally recommend it. Of course, a lot of us independent analysts voicing our opinions directly to Russian connections and channels. We're saying, look, there's only one appropriate response. Send a bloody Oreshnik to Bankova in Kiev, Then they probably will get the message. And if they won't, send more. Because it's not an accident. This is happening now, Nima. There's only 1 month before Trump comes to power. They are desperate. They are beyond desperate. They need something before Trump comes in, a rash Russian response about anything. So they are attacking Crimea Bridge again. You name it. They're trying everything in the book, outside of the book, you name it. They want a rash Russian response so they can turn the narrative around and blame Russia once again before Trump comes to power. So I think many of us have discussed with you in our podcast that these are the most dangerous months before, probably in this millennium, after 9/11. And we still have 1 month ahead of us. And these people are scared. They are dangerous. They are out of control. They know that some things might change after January 20th. And their window of opportunity to cause mayhem and to cause Russia to lose their cool, which they won't. It's not Putin's modus operandi. It's only 1 month left.